This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to all of you who have joined us on Safari Live. We have started our day off with some lions, some little lions, well not teeny tiny baby lions, but lions nonetheless. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Archie. Remember, this is a live and interactive show, so all you need to do if you'd like to chat to us is hashtag Safari Live. Also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Now, we've just arrived on scene to this, well, it's quite a beautiful sight, I'm sure you'll all agree. And I've had a look around. There's quite a few youngsters here. We can't see them all right now because the grass is still quite tall, but they're definitely around. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the pride that we saw yesterday, because we're not very far from that, and this pride is indeed the Mara River Pride, or they're also known as the Cabarini Pride. So they like to live up here in this sort of marshy section. I haven't seen any of the adults. The adults could be off hunting somewhere. That's a possibility. I mean, these youngsters, well, those ones look like they're probably about 7 or 8 months old, maybe even a bit older than that. Probably actually a bit older than that. I'm always so a bit stingy when aging cats. I like to make them out to be a bit younger. Maybe they're just under a year. But there are lots of them, and they're of varying ages. Remember, we were seeing them around... When did the marsh breakaways have their little ones? They were quite grown in February already. Well, they were growing up. Anyways, I don't know where the adults are, so they're probably around somewhere. There's also a big herd of buffalo approaching these young cats. So, well, they're still very far away. Nobody needs to get too excited just yet. But, of course, they would pose a threat to these young lion cubs. Are you going to come down and have a drink of water? Please do. Oh, no, hang on. Archie, they've had a kill, these cats. On the right, there's a lion with its bottom facing us. Yes, that one. It is chewing something. I thought I saw horns. Maybe they've caught themselves a baby wildebeest. They do have big bellies. That one does have a massive belly. Okay, so there we go. They did eat something, but now I don't know where the rest of the pride actually is. So that's good news. That's really, really, really great news. We're probably going to hear a couple of vehicles moving around, but that's nice to see. Let's see if they're going to push their siblings back into the water. Some of them are having a drink now. Very sweet. There's a little one. Much younger than the rest of the pride. Very cute. Right. Anyways, before you miss an actual sunrise, let's go to Steve and see how beautiful it is.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma in the Sabi Sands, South Africa, where the sun has crested the horizon and the dawn is upon us. My name is Steve Falconbridge. I'm joined on camera by Craig, and we are out in the early dawn. We found Hosanna earlier, right next to the dam cam, where Tristan is going to be going very, very shortly once he drops off the drone. And we have now come into Torchwood. We found tracks of the Nkuhuma Pride, crossed out of Djuma onto the main road, into Little Gowrie, and then they picked up the trail of a buffalo herd, which has moved sort of northeast into Torchwood, and we are on their trail. So hopefully we're going to find some action in the next little while. Somewhere in this direction, an enormous herd of buffalo is on the move. We can't hear them from here, but we don't know exactly how far behind them we are. But the lions moved out. We found them moving south. We thought, oh no, they've gone south. And then the trail of the buffalo moved across, and then lo and behold, there were the lion tracks right behind them. So I don't know how hungry the Nkuhumas were. They didn't seem that hungry last night, but they just can't pass up the opportunity of a murr, murr. They hear that noise, their ears just go and they just follow. They just follow. So we are looking for the hardest animals in the world to track. A herd of about 50 plus buffalo. I'm joking, it's the easiest animals to track because they just leave a trail of tracks and dung. I'll show you when we find where they cross, but they're slowly moving kind of in this direction. They're probably further ahead of us already, but let's have a look. Hopefully we can maintain signal this morning in Torchwood, and who knows what else we might be able to find for you. Don't forget to send through your questions, hashtag SafariLive, or pop your comments and questions on the YouTube chat. I'd love to hear from you. There's a beautiful 16 degrees Celsius here in Djuma, 61 degrees Fahrenheit, one pair of gloves, one jacket. It is a lovely spring morning. And nice to be on Torchwood as well. But we were hoping to find you the Unkumas. We thought, as I said, we'd lost them, but I don't think we have. Oh, here are some of the tracks. Fantastic. Well, anyway, we are going to go all the way up to the Masai Mara, where Taylor McCurdy is still with her lions, still with the cubs that she's already found.
Hopefully you'll be able to follow those tracks, Steve, and they'll reward you with some lions. Now, it's not particularly difficult to find cats in the Mara because normally there's a large gathering of vehicles surrounding them. So there are quite a few here, and I can see the ranger is herding people out of the sighting. We might be one of those people that gets herded out. So if I do need to leave abruptly, it's not because I don't want to sit here, it's because there's a reason behind it. Ah, now we can see the horns. That looked very much like a set of topi horns. So that's what they must have caught. And then actually, just up and to the left of them, there's a herd of topi in the distance, and they've been standing and staring at them, at the lions, for all morning long. So I wonder if that was maybe one of the members of that herd of topi. It's hard to really say. It did look like an adult set of horns, but they haven't stopped staring in this direction. That one on the right looks heavily pregnant too. Her stomach is bulging out the sides. Okay, impressive though, because topi are exceptionally quick runners. We've seen it from when Scott has watched the Five Musketeers, the cheetah boys, chasing after them at the speed at which they can move. It's pretty incredible. They do give the predators a run for their money. Now, Steve, typically it's around 7 months or so that lions will be weaned off their mum's milk. Obviously, give and take a bit, and they're quite cheeky. They will often try and sneak a suckle whenever they can, especially if there's another female that's still lactating within the pride. She will, I suppose she will, the youngsters will still suckle. So with lions, because they're so social, they do allo suckle. So it's kind of not uncommon to see a lioness suckling another's cub, although they do show preference over their own cubs. But and that's how the older ones, I suppose, sneak a bit of milk. But they start eating meat from quite a young age. I mean, they're normally from about 3 months, 4 months old. They'll be loving and tucking into that carcass, probably not taking up much meat, as I'm sure it must be difficult for them to chew off some pieces of flesh. But they learn the gist of it. Yeah, and of course they love to wrestle. We know how important playing with one another is. It's good for muscle development, especially when you need to learn how to pounce onto the back of a buffalo or a giraffe, which is a recent sighting that has been circling the interweb. It was incredible. It wasn't actually too far away from here. Didn't happen in the triangle. So it was the Conservancy. But it looked absolutely spectacular. And they'll just keep themselves entertained. So well done to the adults last night. We saw them with empty bellies, and now they've at least got something to eat. Not that a topi is much food for lions. It's not a pride of this size. If I'm not mistaken, it's 5 lionesses, and then there's about 8 or 9 cubs here. I just haven't seen all of them for a very long time to be able to count them. And of course there's some new additions, which we saw. Actually, there it is over there. There's the little one again, who's quite funny. We saw 3 the last time though, 3 little ones. When I had a decent sort of sighting of them. Go on, Fluffy, also got a full belly. And that little one's probably about 4 or 5 months old now. Very precious, and following big sibling around. And they're going towards some of the adults who are just off to the left of them. They should walk straight towards them. Ah, wonderful. So it seems as though Tristan is back up and running. Not surprised, and of course he is sitting with a leopard.
Indeed, well, it's our normal pan animal that spends most of his life sitting around this particular dam, and he's curled up in the tightest little ball, as cute as could be, and little Hosanna is having a really, really good nap. But it is that time of the day that I need to say good morning to all of you. So my name is Tristan. On camera I've got Sebastian this morning, and it is a very, very, very good to have you all aboard, and hopefully we'll have a lovely morning with the little chief. It was thanks to Steve. Steve was actually the first one to locate where he was, and then he went on and carried on while we did our drone testing to try to find other things. And so very nice of Steve to let us come to Hosanna this morning and spend some time with him. But he's just going to sit right behind the quarries, or in amongst the quarries, and I'm pretty sure this is a good place for him to be right now, and I'll tell you why. Because as animals come down to drink, and as they come down to look for water, so he's in not a bad position to be able to stalk and hunt them. This little quarry thicket is pretty kind of sheltered, and it will be very difficult for a lot of the animals to actually see him clearly inside there. So he can just sit and wait for unsuspecting impalas and duikers and nyalas and various other things to make their way to this area. But I don't think you could roll him up into a tighter ball than what he is right now. He's got his tail wrapped around even his cheek, as though it's like a little cheek warmer. His paws are all tucked in, and he's a tight little ball. But the sun is coming up, so I suppose he'll warm up fairly quickly. He's very cute. Miss Muffin Girl, you say, oh, a Hosanna ball? Yes, it is a little Hosanna ball. It is, like I say, a ball of spots at this stage, and it's amazing how much he can actually tuck himself in. You would think that, you know, he would start to get too hot in this position, but he is really kind of rolled up as much as possible, and that'll all just be trapping body heat in there. He's probably gotten cold from sitting here all night and has decided just to kind of warm up. I've got a blankie here. I wonder if he would sleep on the blanket. I think he would. I think he would quite like a little blankie to lie on and sleep. It's almost like he's using his tail as a pillow. Look at that. That's very cute. So, Steve, the coldest it gets in Djuma, that doesn't sound very cold, and I'm going to say this because, you know, when I say the temperature, you'll say, well, that's not too bad, but there's a difference out here in that when you drive around in cold temperatures, without a roof and without doors, it gets very cold very quickly. But the coldest we get here is normally about 1 to 2 degrees centigrade. That's about as cold as it would really get. I've never had I've had one day that went to 0, but I've never had below 0 here. But in saying that, there's wind and there's no protection from it, and so it gets absolutely freezing. And I've had people that have come from some of the coldest parts of the world that are surprised with just how cold it feels on some of these bitter winter morning game drives. They can be quite something when it's horrible weather, and particularly if you get a bit of rain mixed in that makes you wet and cold, it's not very pleasant at all. So while we don't get snow and very seldom frost, it still gets freezing to drive around without any protection from the wind in the form of closed doors and roofs. Morning, boy. Now the sun is coming up. You can see the beautiful kind of golden light that's making his coat really bright and vivid. And hopefully when the sun warms up a bit, he's going to start stretching out and actually giving himself a bit more space to lie down. But I'll tell you what's interesting is I've seen him do this many times at this pan. I've sat with him for long periods while he's been curled up. And it's interesting how the ground underneath him heats up massively when he lies like this. And then he gets up and he actually will turn and kind of curl up on the same spot over and over again. So when he gets a little uncomfortable on one side, and he gets up and he just kind of swaps sides and goes into that ball. But he always lies on the same point. And it's almost like he heats the ground with his body, and it actually stays much warmer than if he were to kind of lie somewhere else. It's quite interesting just to kind of watch his process. It's almost like he makes a little hot spot for himself and then goes and sits on top of it, which is pretty clever. I really like the way he's using his tail as a pillow too. It seems like quite a clever maneuver. Although, do you think they get dead tails? You know, we always talk about having a dead leg or a dead arm. When you sleep on it, then you lose kind of feeling. Do you think their tails go the same way? What do you think, Seb? It's possible, isn't it? Never thought about it either, but it is possible. I wonder if he gets this kind of little dead tail that doesn't work quite as well when he's been sleeping on it for some time. It would be interesting to know. I would be exactly pins and needles in the tail. It must be a weird experience to have a pins and needle tail, but it's a completely ridiculous conversation. But these are the things you wonder sometimes when you spend a lot of time with these cats, is do they have the same things that we have? And I would imagine that must be, surely it's just a cut-off of blood flow that causes that effect, and so surely they have the same thing if they sleep on their tail, because his head must be quite heavy. It can't exactly be a light kind of object that's pushing down on that tail against fairly hard ground. So I would imagine if he slept like that for too long, then he definitely would get it. But you can see he's all kind of curled up, listening still. He's definitely keeping an ear out for what's going on and listening to what we've got to say, but is not really ready for the start of his day. And I suppose he had a big day yesterday. He was around Twin Dams, and then he walked around a bit and came all the way back, which I think all of us have breathed a massive sigh of relief when we saw him on the dam cam last night, because we thought potentially he might go south, and obviously it's a worry if he goes south because, well, there's pans just like this one to the south of us that he could potentially decide is his and sit in and stay there for weeks or months, and so we would rather have him on our side than anywhere else. Good. Well, we're going to spend our morning with Hosana. We're going to see what he gets up to. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Taylor McCurdy, who's undoubtedly beaming from ear to ear in the fact that she has playful little ones that she's busy watching.
Well, our sighting, unfortunately, is about to come to an end as the lions disappear into the long grass, and for good reason. So there must have been some kind of communication, because there were some lionesses lying just up ahead of them, and they got up and they all started walking to the tree line, which you can see behind those little ones. Now, whether it's for the heat of the day, it could be, except some of you may remember that a little while ago I mentioned that there was a herd of buffalo. They have now arrived, and a big herd of buffalo is detrimental to a pride of lions, especially with lots of little ones within the pride, because buffalo are also, well, they're not only are hunted by lions, but also are lion killers. They do not like the lions whatsoever. So look here, here's the herd now. They've moved and they've come from quite a way back. And buffalo also sniff out lions and intentionally approach them. Sorry, I'm just listening. Everybody's sort of shouting out loud, and I don't know what everyone got excited about in the car, so I was just having a quick look. I thought I'd missed something, but I haven't. So there we go, all the buffalo. Can also starting to hear baboons now barking in the tree line. Perhaps they've seen the lions. Maybe there's a leopard lurking about. But these buffalo would not have been very happy at all to come across a pride of lions. Now, I do know why the buffalo are moving into this area. There's a little mud wallow which we saw the youngsters drinking from earlier. Perhaps they're going to come and wallow in it, or maybe they do just want to come and have a drink. But look how cautious they're being. You see that? How they all stopped, they're listening. They're smelling. They can probably smell that lions were here. And then with the baboons barking in the distance, they're very, very wary. Now this cow that we can see will probably be one of the pathfinders. Very important role within a breeding herd of buffalo. You decide which direction you sort of go in. Look at them, all very, very nervous. Topi getting out of there, they're not hanging around anymore. You can actually hear the buffalo. They're making all sorts of sort of unsettling noises now. Look how they all move together. You don't want to get left behind, because that's how you end up being singled out. So all making sure there's not too many big gaps between the herd, especially if there are any youngsters. They need to stay right up in the middle so that they're protected by all the big cows as well as all the big bulls. There's a beautiful big bull now. And then just to quickly mention, all those white birds are cattle egrets. They always follow the big herds of animals around. See, look at that. Look at the front of the herd now. They've got to where some of the kill was. There was also some jackals there. So there were some jackals feeding on some scraps. They must have been lucky enough to grab some. See how they've all got their noses down on the ground? They're smelling. So they know something went on over here, and I'm sure they can smell that it was the lions. Birds, of course, are not perturbed, as they won't be on the prey species list for the lions. Maybe the youngsters. Youngsters would enjoy chasing after them. There's a jackal. A cobalt, I suppose I haven't particularly noticed any migratory patterns within the buffalo, but maybe that's just because I haven't been here long enough to observe them, and our focus hasn't ever really been on the buffalo. But now, one thing I did find is that it feels like they get annoyed with all the zebra and the wildebeest. So they seem to move up to the north before the big herds arrive. So now we're starting to see, 300-400 and quite a few different herds of that amount of buffalo up here in the northern parts of the triangle. It's like they're trying to avoid the other grazers down south. But I haven't noticed anything in particular. I suppose like the rest of them, they are doing mini migrations. They're constantly just moving around, looking for the greenest grass possible. A bulk of them do stay up in the marshy areas. As you can imagine, it's beautiful up there. It's perfectly suited, as buffalo like to wallow around during the heat of the day. So this area up top here is fantastic for them. But of course it's littered with lions. Lots of people at the sighting, as you can see. Needs to be very careful. You can see those moms are very, very nervous around here with their young calves, and rightfully so. Okie dokie, but that was a very interesting sighting. I don't think these buffalo are going to find the lions and chase them around. Let's go see if Steve's having any more luck and is any closer to the Nkuhumas.
Well, we are looking. I seem to think I've found the area where the buffalo have been milling around. There's some tracks just here. But they came into this sort of area from the south. Quite a large herd, it seemed. There's lots and lots of tracks, lots of dung, but we did a big loop around and none of them have gone further north than that. So maybe they haven't even, maybe we were so far close behind them that they were still moving as we went. So we've come back to do a smaller sort of loop. See if we can cut them. The tracks, that is, not the buffalo. Oh, there's some zebra tracks. And the lions will surely be somewhere around them. Well, while we keep looking, we've spotted a beautiful waterbuck on the left here. Some nice light, and while we stop and listen, we can maybe hear if there's any noises around. Tina, I have never had a buffalo charge my vehicle, no. I've had them tossing their horns and looking quite menacing, but it's all about giving them space, I suppose. There's been a few videos recently of buffalo attacking vehicles, and my opinion about that, and you can just leave it as my opinion, it's not fact, it's just what I think. But buffalo that seem to attack vehicles these days, I'm pretty sure are buffalo that have been bred, disease-free buffalo. They've been almost hand-reared by people, and then they get released into a reserve where people then conduct all sorts of ecotourism and the like. And those buffalo just don't have any fear of us, and sometimes they're even fed from a vehicle. So that is probably why they attack cars now. And that in these areas, not here, we don't see it here. I've never seen a buffalo attack a car here. But in these areas where buffalo are released and, as I say, captive bred, they've been accustomed to people from very early age, and they've also been accustomed to vehicles, so they don't really care. They're very powerful animals, and they will attack the vehicle trying to get some lucerne off the back or anything like that. Or also people are a bit more complacent with them. Buffalo will be walking towards them along the road, and they'll stop in the road, and the buffalo will be like, well, why did you move out of my way? If you see buffalo moving on the road, you just give them space. Move off the road, park on the side, let them all walk on a very nice natural path away from you. That will be fine. But a buffalo gets a bit angry with you is a very dangerous thing. Probably the most dangerous animal out in the African wilderness is a captive bred buffalo, I would say. But this is my opinion, folks. Here we have a beautiful waterbuck. There's a small family of them feeding around. That's not what we're looking for. He's a bulk grazer just like the buffalo, but they don't occur in as great a number. and indeed a female. We're kind of between Torchwood Dam and Chitwa watering hole towards the south. Lisa, waterbucks are your favorite. They are very, very cute, very beautiful animals indeed. And we do see a lot of them around, and they are feeding very slowly, seemingly, as they move slowly back towards the watering hole to the south, probably Chitwa, where no doubt they'll go and supplement their morning drink. We need lots of water. Waterbuck drink an enormous amount, estimated almost double that of a buffalo, and they are half, not even half the size. They're about a third the size of a buffalo, and they require almost double the amount of water, which is very interesting. Maybe it's because they wear such a shaggy coat out here and they get very, very hot in the African wilderness. They need to cool themselves down with a drink. But anyway, Tristan Dix is with the little chief. Let's go and say good morning.
I am indeed, Steve. He's still curled up ever so tightly, although his nose has kind of come out a little bit from when the last time you were with us, and he's still very much asleep. He hasn't really woken up too much, but you can see that light is starting to hit him now, and it's going to start warming up quite quickly, and once it starts to warm up, he's going to get quite hot lying like that, and then you'll find that he'll start to stretch himself out a little bit and maybe even lift his head and pose a bit. And I'm hoping that with this sort of sun that's coming up, that's going to drive things to come down and have a little drink. So maybe something like impalas or duiker or maybe even wildebeest that will think about coming in this area, and that will then certainly perk up our little prince as he kind of watches what goes on. And he's going to have a busy day here, because yesterday when it was warm, there were lots of different animals that were coming down to drink during the course of the day, and so he'll have opportunities if he just is patient and waits it out. Now, Aline, do I think he's had a meal? Difficult to say. He's so curled up, I actually can't see his tummy at all. So all I can see is his hip and his head, and then so it's hard to say whether he's eaten. I mean, I saw briefly a glimpse of him yesterday when Steve had him on one of the screens, and it looked like he was in fairly good condition. It didn't look like he was fat, but he looked as though his tummy wasn't sunken in, or he wasn't very thin. So he seems to be surviving. I think he's probably, in all likelihood, grabbing one or two scrub hairs during the course of the night and kind of feeding off those, maybe the odd bird here and there. And that's just sustaining him until he gets the bigger meals. But he definitely hasn't been on a big carcass for the last few weeks that we know of. We know that obviously he had quite a few in the beginning when he first spent time at this pan. But since then, he hasn't had too much success with the duikers and impalas. And I'm hoping that at some point... What are you doing, Hosanna? That cannot be comfortable. I don't know. He is a clown, this cat. But, I mean, he hasn't had too much success at the pan since then. So, you know, he's kind of needs to maybe refine his technique once again. He had it right when he first started here, is that he would be patient behind that dam wall and he would wait. The problem is I think that now is a lot of the animals are drinking a little bit further round the pan since they fixed the little dam wall, because the dam wall was leaking and they fixed it. And I think things are drinking a little further away, which has not helped Hosanna all that much, in that he can't get as close to them by using the dam wall as cover and then launch out from there. And so it's interesting to see, maybe that's what's affecting his success rate. I don't know, last night, those that watched, did he hunt anything? He might have. Would be surprised if he didn't chase something around here last night. He generally is quite a busy boy and goes after quite a few things. But he doesn't look as though he's too worried about going looking for food, does he? He looks about as happy could be, and just taking it super easy and resting right at the pan itself. So I think he's chilled at this stage. Yes, I believe he will have a stiff neck. I believe lots of you are saying that he's going to have a stiff neck, and most definitely if you lie like that with your head curled, he's not going to be comfortable. And I imagine a sore ear as well. That poor ear must be kind of folded in underneath his head. Can't be that comfortable at all, unless his ear's cold, and maybe that's why he's lying like that, to warm up his little ear. It would be interesting to know. I don't have the FLIR with me on this car, so we can't really see what's hot and what's not on his body, but I'd imagine his ear is getting nicely insulated by being trapped under there, but might be a little bit kind of worse for wear by the end of it. Very cool though. Are you listening to us, Hosanna? Shame. Sleepy little boy. But you can see also how hairy their ears are. Lots of hair in there just to protect them from all the dust and dirt and various things that kind of a cat faces on a day-to-day basis. It also will help just channel that sound into the ear. Very cool to see. It's nice when you can be this close that you can have a look at all these little parts of him. And for any spot comparisons, I think we probably have more angles of this cat in every single pose possible. I don't think it would ever be difficult to ID Hosana for anybody, because there literally is thousands of photographs and video footage and screenshots of every aspect of Hosana's body and how to then identify him from there. But you can see lots of all those unique little spots around his tail area and then kind of in underneath. Very, very, very pretty. Now, I've been sitting here hoping that we'd see some animals. Oh, there's some wildebeest actually coming down now. So, Silva, how did he survive? Well, he was clever, in that one is he was lucky that Tingana was still dominant and didn't go through that sick phase when he was still a cub. There come the wildebeest. You can see them slowly coming down. So it's a bit big for him. I don't think he'd be able to hunt that, but they are coming down, which might wake him up. So he didn't have to worry because Tingana kind of had the area covered. The second thing is that luckily for him, when Karula disappeared, he was already of the age where he was physically capable of looking for food and actually had already started to kill himself under Karula's guidance. And so he was going after things like terrapins and birds and monitor lizards and kind of trying to catch those things. And as time kind of went on, so he honed his technique and he survived the first few months by catching small prey. So he was going after things like terrapin and like I say, monitor lizards pretty much exclusively at one point. And then out of nowhere, he managed to bring down a big impala ram on Little Gowrie, I believe. And that was the kind of start that set him off. And he obviously figured out how to chase things. There's an instinct that a lot of leopard have in how to hunt and to chase. And I think through just sheer amount of trying, we know Hosana is a busy boy, and so sheer amount of just going after one after another, he managed to eventually bring things down and hone a technique in order to feed himself. And since then, he hasn't looked back. He's really done very well in hunting for himself. He also seems to be able to charm other leopards that he can go and share their kills. We've seen him on Tingana's kills before. We've seen him with Tandi's shadow. So he really is not shy to try and pilfer from a family member, which is, I suppose, going to come back to bite him and haunt him a little bit, because they're doing it to him more than he is nowadays as well. So it's interesting. I suppose a little bit of payback. I remember when he was kind of muscling in with Tandi, just as Tandi was starting to leave Tamba, he was around and kind of going there, and he was getting more food out of Tandi than Tamba was getting in one point. But I mean, that obviously all changed because Tamba then left. And you can see the impala is also coming down. So wildebeest and impala, that should start to wake Hosana up a little bit, and hopefully they'll come down and drink, and he'll kind of get excited and maybe go into a bit of a stalk mode. So while we wait for Hosana to notice that there's some food around the corner, let's send you across to David up in the Masai Mara, who's, well, sitting with one of my other favorite animals that's far less dangerous than a leopard.
Hello and welcome to this team of David and James in the Mara Triangle. And we're starting with some nice bull elephant from a distance, and very excited to have you as usual. My name is David, and with me on camera is Big James. Hello, James. Our apologies, we had some little technical issues this morning. We are not able to start on time, but finally we are here. It's quite a technology for us to come from here, from where I am, to where you are. But finally our nice, very experienced technical team has been able to fix things, and now we are back into business. And remember, this is a very interactive safari drive we do for you, so we are always very pleased if you send us or if you ask us questions, and any comments you may want to make are always very welcome. And we got a small herd there of the savanna elephants, and we're right in the heart of the Mara Triangle in Kenya. So that could be a mother and this small baby between those two, the one on the right and the one on the left. There's a youngster there, and I'm not sure they are either having some salt leaking there. I don't see them drinking. I don't see them picking any. I don't see them eating. I don't see them picking any food or grass. Either they're having a little drink. That's my guess. There's a spring in that particular area where they are. There's always a source of water coming down, not very far from where I am. But my guess is they're having a drink. It's another youngster way to the right. And this is the African savanna elephant. We also got the forest elephant. That one is also having a drink. It's a quite stretch of a spring, and as usual, flicking the tail. It's not very warm, so they're not, flapping their ears a lot. Very still, no wind. Yesterday we had so much wind, and we had some thunderstorms and rains. But at the moment, everything looks very calm. Yeah, a bit of a flap over here there. Well, I would say the Mara Ellies are more or less the same. Elephants, I think, across Steve, the Ellies in the Mara and Juma, I would say, Steve, they are basically the same, and they will always behave the same way because they are all the same species, and these are the savanna elephants. And let's have a quick link first to Tristan.
Well, we've got another 2 leopards that have joined us. So Tandi and Kalamba are also coming past. That's little Kalamba that's just moseying on along. Tandi was somewhere here as well, so they're also with Hosanna, and maybe they're going to come towards the pan. I'm not quite sure. It looks like they might just be moving down the cut line and kind of heading off down that way. I'm not really sure what they're doing. It could be that they were trying to come for water, or they could be trying to just carry on, and maybe Tandi's got to kill somewhere that she's taking Kalalamba too. But how cool is this? Once again, we're sitting with Hosanna, and he provides more than just another sighting in that he's got other cats that seem to just be around him all the time. I don't know what it is and why we sit here and he kind of just attracts all of these different ones. I'm just going to quickly shoot off that direction just to go and see them. Let's see, they've gone over the dam wall by the looks of things. So I just want to... Hosanna's lying flat. He's not going to go anywhere just yet. So we'll come back to him now. Let's quickly have a little look at what's going on here. How amazing is that? It's so cool to have these guys again. Now I'm hoping they're going to come across the dam wall and there'll be a little interaction with Hosanna. It's always nice when they do interact. Hosanna hasn't noticed an absolute thing. He's still sleeping and taking it very easy. He's not too concerned about what's going on. So let's just double check where these 2 leopards have gone. They look like they've gone in behind the dam wall, which I suppose means that they might be moving somewhere. Tandi, we know, came from the south yesterday, but it seems she spent the day, well, the evening with maybe Tandi, so she's moving southwards. She's just crossed over. I don't know if she saw Hosanna. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't, but she is moving kind of down the drainage line. There's a duiker that's there. Now where is she in relation to the duiker? Which is quite interesting. So there's a duiker that was there. I mean, can't see her at all. But there was definitely 2 of them, so we only saw Kalalamba walking, but there was definitely both together. The wildebeest are going to go and drink. Hosanna's still sleeping. Just trying to see where Tandi is. So I don't see her, but I don't know where Steve is as well, Lou. Maybe Steve wants to... Yeah, I'm going to come in from here. We should be able to see her. So Kalalumba's running down into the drainage line itself. There they both are. They're both running for some reason. Playing, or I'm not sure. There goes Tandi. She's on a full mission. Kalalumba's going to come trotting behind. There she comes. Bouncing her way along. Isn't she cute? Now, I know that Steve is looking around and kind of scratching, but it might be worth him coming because we're going to separate from Hosanna pretty quickly, and following these cats is not going to be easy. I also know that James needs to come and film some stuff with a mobile cat, and so this might be his opportunity with these particular leopards. Now, my blanket is falling off. Oh, it's all happening. Let's get rid of that. We don't need it now. Right, now while I try and catch up with Tandi and Kalalamba, who are highly mobile, let's send you back across to Steve, who's, well, he's with some buffalo.
Well, we found the buffalo, folks, and I was almost going to scratch my head in deep thought as to where they might have gone, but they're exactly where I anticipated. We went around the block, found their tracks, and we followed them with a whole lot of lion tracks, and here we have found the herd of buffalo. The only thing that's missing from this equation is the lions. So we're going to move from the buffalo. They're looking very relaxed at the moment, but we had the tracks of lions follow them about 100 meters back, so have a very strong feeling that the lions are very close by. They might even have had a buffalo. They might be on a buffalo. We don't know. We don't know. Can't hear anything. Can't see anything apart from these buffalo at the moment, but they're just to the east, to the western side of Torchwood Dam itself. So when we were initially talking about them possibly being within the block and having a listen, they are being very quiet, lying up, ruminating. But as anticipated, finding their tracks and following in the dung pile and tracks was very, very easy. Now to find the elusive unkuhumas that are no doubt somewhere nearby. But marvellous that Tristan has managed to find Tandi and Kalamba as well. What a beautiful morning it is going to be. If we find the unkuhumas hunting here as well, the buffalo don't seem to be aware of any lion activity. Their behavior is just a little bit bit too chilled for my liking at the moment, so maybe the lions are slowly, as we speak, encircling this herd and trying to do something, but I have yet to spot a cat. Maybe they're being very patient. They are known to be very good buffalo hunters, so who knows exactly what they're doing, but I would love to be able to show you a buffalo hunt this morning. Aline, buffaloes they don't live for as long as you would anticipate. I'd say about 20 years is an old buffalo, but buffalo bulls don't get to that sort of age. Buffalo bulls probably between the ages of 10 and 12, maybe a little bit more. That's about as much as it'll get. They just slowly get picked off, but females could probably get 16, 18 living within the herd, the safety in numbers that the herd provides. But the bulls themselves, once they aren't dominant anymore, they get pushed out, and the Duggar boys, as you will, move off on their own, and slowly but surely, one by one, get picked off. So I think 13, 14 for buffalo bull is very, very old, but that is through my experience. Obviously in captivity they could probably live longer, but out here predators pick off the weak and the old. That is part and parcel of nature. There's a beautiful bull in his prime right there. There's a big boy. You can easily see the penis sheath on his belly button and his very broad horns that he had, and he's quite shy now. He's going to hide away. But we will spend some time with these buffalo. We just want to see if we can find these lions. There we go. There's a nice bull as well. You can see the boss of the horns, how they're split. And you can see around his face, he's kind of losing patches of hair. And those patches of hair are indication of a little bit of age. And the fact that the boss has opened up like that is indicating that he's definitely mature. When they are quite young, that is still a little bit hairy, and it's quite narrow and closed on the boss. You can see them in the classic rumination position, sitting down, not always sitting down, sometimes just chewing, in a very meditative state, clearly to me indicating they're quite relaxed and have absolutely no idea that they're probably eminently being stalked by a herd of buffalo. Calcix, I don't know. I mean, you probably could drink buffalo milk. I mean, where does buffalo mozzarella come from? I don't think it comes from these guys, but the problem is that the buffalo that you find in South Africa, well, in the Kruger National Park, are all regarded as diseased buffalo. They are carriers of bovine tuberculosis, and you could potentially contract that through the milk. The youngsters contract it through the milk. They're almost inherently born with it because they drink from their mother's milk immediately after birth, and that is how they actually breed disease-free buffalo, is that they will take one of these individual females, they'll breed with her, and they'll take the calf away before it suckles, and that prevents it from contracting the disease from her. It doesn't cause any problem with them. It's a carrier for them, but I don't think any of us would want any bovine tuberculosis. There you can see the female on the right and the male on the left. Look at the difference in the boss of the horns, that central piece. You can see how much bigger it is. The horns on both species, on both individuals, should I say, designed for fighting. The males fighting against each other, and the females for defending their youngsters against predators. And it's quite a good indication of what type of terrain you should find animals in. If the males and females both have horns, then invariably their predator defense strategy is to turn and defend their youngster with their horns against predators. So they're generally in an open system where running is the order of the day and not hiding in the bushes. You look at wildebeest, eland, buffalo, all have horns so the females can turn, topi as well, and defend their youngsters against predators. When you look at kudu, nyala and the like, their objective is to stand still and freeze, and hence having horns in a thick environment where standing still and freezing is quite an advantage. Having horns for a female is a disadvantage because she's not able to basically escape as easily. But obviously the buffalo do occur here in the savannah, and they will just crash through the bushes, and they are quite, but lions hunting buffalo is a very dangerous task. Very, very dangerous task indeed. But some lions get quite professional at it, and I would love to be able to find the onkuhumas for you this morning and see if they're hungry enough to chance their luck at maybe one of the young or old in this herd. As you can see, they are quite relaxed. So we're going to turn around, see if we can find those lion tracks that were coming directly towards us, and maybe we will find some predators lying up in ambush. What do you reckon, Craigo? Very good. We're going to do that then. We're coming straight in along this pathway as well. So either they've chased the lions off or the lions haven't quite caught up with them. But in the meantime, we're going to go all the way back up to the Masai Mara with Taylor McCurdy, who's bumbling around. Let's go and see exactly what her plans for the rest of the morning are going to be.
That we are. Hopefully we'll find some animals at some point. But I'm also just enjoying a nice morning bumble. So yeah, very quiet. Our lions disappeared into the thicket. No one can see them anymore. Now we just bumble, I suppose, and see what we can find. Yeah, I can't believe how just a couple of weeks ago this area was absolutely littered with animals, and now they've all moved. They've all gone a little bit further south. They've eaten the grass pretty short though. But this is the first area that the animals start arriving, because remember it's a zebra that actually lead the front of the migration, so they cross just behind us and they come in here in their hundreds, and then they graze that grass down so short. But the wildebeest haven't actually made it up here. I think I've seen like 1 or 2 wildebeest, but they may have been some that didn't actually migrate, that just sort of, moved around in this area. Ooh, rocky, huh? A bit short. I can't actually see over the front of the car. What else are we gonna find? I'm thinking we'll try and maybe look for a black rhino at some point. Carol, no, I don't think there's actual forest elephants. The forest elephants that I think you might be talking about occur in the Congo, and those sort of areas. They don't actually occur here. So there are elephants that go into the forests, but they're not forest elephants. So yeah, Brent knows quite a bit about it, and I think between him and Jean Grey, they're the two that have actually spent some time with the forest elephants. In Gabon as well, I think they occur down there. I've never seen them before. So yeah, so I'd love to see them. They look beautiful. Very, very pretty. Big tusks. Very quiet down the side. I think I made a mistake in coming here. Normally in the morning it's fairly good game viewing. but apparently not today. I think we'll go back around and just check a tree line down that way, and then also trying to think. We could hear the lions this morning. I'm assuming it was the Olololo Pride, but I don't know where they are. So I was trying to look for them early this morning. That's actually who I wanted to find in the beginning, but then didn't really have much luck. So we moved on and looked for the other ones that we saw in the afternoon. Cobalt, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the vultures do, because the vultures basically just disappear from the Mara when the migration is not around. There's a couple of them scattered here and there, but other than that, it's particularly quiet. And that's sort of I suppose, a clue to all the guides out here as to when the migration is going to arrive, because there's just nothing, and then all of a sudden one day there's just vultures and perched up in the trees, down on the ground, because the vultures spend quite a bit of time down on the ground. They feel safe, they can see for, you know, long distances. It's not so dense like it is in South Africa. So I think that's exactly what they do. They probably follow all the wildebeest back down to the southern plains of Tanzania, where they'll give birth, because there's an opportunity that they'll be feeding on the afterbirth. There are obviously lots of predators that target those youngsters too, and then they'll just feed on that. So I'm pretty sure they just do a circle. They are around all year round, but you definitely see more vultures during the migration months here in the Mara. Anyways, off we go back to South Africa to see if Steve has had any more luck.
Well, we've moved all the way back. Oh, buffalo having a little bit of an argy-bargy. We moved all the way back, and 50 meters behind the car, the lion tracks are heading directly here. So we're going to have a look around. Maybe the lions decided, well, they're not that hungry. They're going to leave these buffalo alone. Going to do a bit of a loop, circle around these buff and see if we can find where they might be. But the buffalo don't seem concerned. They don't seem to feel as if there's lion in the area, and we can't see them at all from where we are positioned. So maybe they are, in fact, they decided, we couldn't help ourselves by following, and maybe they just walked straight past, and maybe even walked towards Torchwood Dam now for a little bit of a drink, and then they might think of their options again. Beautiful in the early morning with a herd of buffalo. You can smell them. If you've ever been in a milking shed before in your life, that's what it smells like. That smell of cow manure. I quite enjoy it. It takes me back to when I was very young on my grandfather's farm, and I used to wake up early to milk the cows. Some good memories. Bob, the predators most certainly follow the prey. I don't know if they're necessarily smelling the excrement, but I mean, they can smell the feet and the movement of buffalo. I'm driving through the area, I can smell buffalo quite easily. So lions can follow each other by the tracks, the smell of the tracks they leave behind. So a herd of buffalo we can follow visually very easily. So from an olfactory sort of sense, they can follow very, very well. And the Unkuhumas here all the lions in this area seem to follow the lions around, the buffalo around. Sometimes they might hear them and they move into the area, but if they do pick up on their trail, they often, well, what I've experienced, they follow them. And that's what's happened every time we have a herd of buffalo move into Djuma. Within half a day, a pride of lions arrives, but quite often the buffalo moves straight through, and hence that's why the lions move straight through from one side to the other without even pause. But for some reason, the buffalo are lying down, lions are somewhere around, and everyone is looking super relaxed. So we're going to try to figure this out. Lots of oxpeckers in there. You can maybe hear them screaming or doing their shout. There's an enormous number of ticks to be eaten off of that herd, made up of breeding females, their youngsters, old females. And then, you see, there's a nice youngish bull. You can see his horns there. That's not really cracked on the boss. It's just splitting. He's a prime bull. Very, very prime. You see he's losing a bit of fur around the eyes. And you get this sort of movement of buffalo bulls between a herd. You get a whole lot of younger guys who kind of are the same sort of age and sort of know each other. They form bonds and they move in and into the herd, and they push each other around. There's lots of testosterone, there's lots of mating, there's lots of fighting that happens, and then every now and again they have to get displaced by another herd of bulls that are hanging out on the periphery. And slowly but surely the genetics are moved between a herd as groups of bulls move in and move out depending on their condition and their fitness. There we go. It's quite an old bull there on the floor. You can see the shape and the sort of fissuredness of those horns, and there are two much younger ones underneath. Jason, are buffalo aggressive to other herbivores? I've never really seen it. I saw a photograph of a buffalo that seemed to hit a baby elephant down. I don't know where that came from or how it came about, and then the mother smashed the buffalo. So I don't know what happened there. You know, if you get too close to a herd of buffalo and you get in amongst them, you know, they can be quite protective. Craig, this bull standing up here has got enormous horns. Wow, look at that guy. That is enormous. That is a beautiful, beautiful bull. He's old, he's just over his prime, but look how wide those horns are. If you look at the individual just to the left of him, look at the difference in the sort of spread of those horns. Incredible. And what's quite incredible about buffalo is that the shape of those horns, you think that they can't see where those horns are, but a buffalo can run up to something and it can put the tip of that horn directly in to whatever it is trying to catch. I've seen a lion get picked up by a buffalo perfectly on the edge of that horn and flipped into the air with absolute ease. Buffaloes can weigh up to 2,000 pounds and they can pack an enormous punch. Mita, that's a good question. About the horned borer moths, I think they do start in the horns while the animal is still alive. I'm not 100% sure on that fact though, but within moments of its death, those moths seem to start doing their thing. If you meet anyone who's done any trophy hunting or any of the hunters out there, as soon as a skull or an animal has been shot and they're trying to prepare the skull, they cover it in a poison to prevent any of those things from going in or to get them out, because obviously as the way it is, trophies are meant to be decorated and stand on someone's wall. They can't have all these horned borer moths climbing out of them. But that is why sometimes you see buffalo thrashing their horns, because they've kind of got things moving inside of their head. But I'm not 100% sure if the moths have moved in while they're still alive or if it just happens after death. It is a very good question. I wonder, maybe Tristan knows more about that than me. We'll ask him shortly when he comes back on air, but it is something I've kind of debated for a while, but I haven't actually researched too deeply to find out the truth of it. Maybe there's a viewer out there that knows at what stage do the horned borer moths actually lay their eggs on the buffalo's horns or on any animal's horns. I wonder if you can hashtag SafariLive and let us know if you know the answer. There we go. There's a nice young female. You can see she's got lots of fur on the face. The horns aren't too spread apart, but you can see that it's not a male because it hasn't spread. It doesn't get very thick on top. She's very pretty. She'll stay in the herd her whole life. Females don't go anywhere. They inherit their mother's rank. So the lead females, because buffalo herd is a matriarchal society where there's a number of lead females that move and the whole herd basically follows them. So all the buffalo research that's been done in the Kruger Park, what they'll do is they'll identify one of the lead females and they'll put a collar on her, and that will then show exactly where all the buffalo are moving, because they'll all follow that female. She'll get up and move and they'll all walk in that same direction, and by doing that you can work out exactly what's going on with the lions, because the lions, as I said, they follow buffalo all over the place. And some of the big studies that are going on is all about how bovine tuberculosis is affecting cats cats, namely lions as well as leopard, and lots of the leopard that we researched not so long ago have been diagnosed with TB, and that's because they do scavenge off of buffalo carcasses. So one of the things that trophy hunting or hunting in and around the park does provide for is every single animal that is shot, there is tests done on their lungs and to see exactly if they are infected, and that is ongoing. And most of the buffalo in and around the Kruger Park are indeed diseased. As I said, they are carriers only. And we do see the effects on cats and lions quite often when you see that big bulge or growth on their elbow. That is a cause of TB. And what the TB does is it affects their immune system, their breathing, and it makes them less fit. But we don't seem to see too much of a negative effect on lions because they are in a pride. But it does affect leopard, because if a leopard misses and then misses again, the effort required, if they are low in condition, sort of increases their, or should I say, it is much harder for them because no one is helping them, unless it is Tingana who's got Hosana and Tandi providing for him. Well, that is another story. Okay, well, I want to go check on the other side because there is, as I said, there's a very relaxed herd of buffalo here. The lion tracks came right to here, so where are these cats? I don't know. This is perplexing me, but we're going to go have a look. Have a little look-see on the other side. Maybe the tracks have come out as I suggested. Maybe they've gone to have a drink. But in the meantime, we are going to go back up once again to the Masai Mara. Taylor McCurdy, she's driving around. I wonder if she's got any plans. Let's go and see. I'm sure it is a beautiful day up there.
Yes, it's been a little bit on the slow side. Started off great, but perhaps the morning sun is warming everybody up and they're starting to feel a little bit on the sleepy side. Yeah, I suppose that's just one of those things. It's nature. So we've just passed the Olololo gate, which is the most northern entrance into the triangle. Just having a little scratch around. I thought we'd come a bit further north just to check that those lions, I don't know, maybe haven't moved up onto the escarpment. Ooh. Oh, there was a little bee eater, but it's not. Maybe we can see them. There they are. It's tough to see with all the grass. There they are, two little bee eaters. Oh, there might just be one. Oh no, there's the other one. Beautiful, aren't they? Oh, and you've caught something. It's banging it, just trying to kill it. Well, if it had a sting, it would wipe it on that branch. It's amazing to watch the drongos, the lilac-breasted rollers, and of course the bee eaters, which are specialists at eating little insects with stings and take them off. Very cool. They're beautiful little birds. Now, Kazo, no, I haven't seen any caracal. I actually haven't seen a caracal in the Mara. I've seen African wildcats and serval and aardvark and what else? Striped polecats and things like that, which are pretty cool. But I have not seen a caracal for a very long time. The last time I saw a caracal was, in fact, in Juma on Cheetah Plains. I don't know how long ago that was, though. It was quite some time back, and it was just a quick glimpse of one. But I'll probably go down to spend a bit of time in the Eastern Cape soon, and then I will be seeing plenty of when is it? Yeah, I suppose it'll be good. I'll see lots and lots of caracal then. Looking forward to it. They're such cool cats. Lovely smooth roads. I can't wait to drive on a smooth road again. It's going to be so weird. I'm going to go so fast. I won't go so fast. There's speed limits. Oh, these guys are letting me go, so I'm just going to carry on. David, no, I have seen one cheetah since I've been in the Mara. Obviously with the migration series that we've got, the Gauntlet, my character's been the river, so I haven't really been able to spend any other time anywhere else other than on the river. So unless the big cats come down to the river, I don't really see much other than crocodiles and hippos and lots of wildebeest, which is cool. I'm definitely not complaining. But we had a really nice sighting the other day where we followed this male cheetah. He was around Lookout. I don't know who he was, but for ages, for like 5 hours, and he was trying to hunt this group of Thompson's gazelle, and there's one impala ram. So he was sort of doing that, which was quite nice. And he was just sort of moving slowly with them as they were moving along the river's edge, which was epic. And then eventually he got close enough, but sadly it foiled attempt. So I'm now in a traffic jam. I've got cars behind me. I've got people wanting to pass behind me. I don't really know what to do. I'm actually just going to pull off of the road and let these cars go. Everyone's in a hurry to go somewhere. Let's see if I can go. So yeah, where are these lions? I wonder if the lions actually aren't up in camp and killed something right up on the escarpment. I don't know, but we're going to go and check around now. Okie dokie, off you go to Steve. He's still hanging on to that buffalo herd, and I suppose because there aren't many around.
Well, we've just moved off. Gone. Not sure at all. Very confusing, this behavior. Very confusing. Very close by. They've killed something within the block there that we don't know about, and the buffalo just, they don't care anymore. That is an option. It is another option. We'll do one more loop around the block and see if we've got their tracks coming out. No tracks of lions were coming out. Tracks of lions were coming out. What does that mean? Well, yes, that means the lions must still be there. But I didn't want to get off at all because that would just chase those poor tormented for a while. And they just settled down. Okay, sorry, we're getting some signal breakup. I'm going to go around the other way then, Lou. I think where we're going is going to get a little bit dicey. This is an area right here. We had Tundi and Tlala about 3 weeks or a month ago with a little steenbok kill. That was very cool to see. Right next to Torchwood Lodge. So there's one at home at the moment able to come on here and have some access. The buffalo have moved. A couple have stood up, a couple have sat down. They're still off to our left hand side here. The only thought I can have is that oh, there we go. Is that
All right, welcome back from that tech loop, everyone. You know, from time to time, bringing you a live feed in high definition from the middle of absolutely nowhere becomes a bit of a problem. For those of you who haven't heard my voice before, I'm Stef Vintboer, and you are looking at the Nest Cam feed from the Vuyatela pan. Now, the Nest Cam is a little camera. We've got 3 of them, actually, in the middle of a pan on a stump. And it gives us the most fantastic view of animals that are coming down to this pan to drink water. Now, it is the dry season where we are, and going into the tail end of the dry season, we are in winter, and it's not that cold at the moment. Thankfully, spring is almost here. Some of the trees have started to flower, and the temperature is rising, but that, of course, means that these animals are needing to drink a lot more frequently than they did before. What you're looking at now is a herd of impala, and from the looks of things, these are all rams. All male impala, you can see from their horns on their head. Female impala do not have horns. And I really do think that these are such underrated antelope. I find them absolutely beautiful. You can see this big male now coming down to the water. He'll be very skittish. Water bodies here in the Kruger National Park and in most places in Africa contain crocodiles. And you have got a death wish if you're not scared of crocodiles, or if you're not scared of water points over here. And so very wary. Came down, didn't even have a drink. Now I was busy feeding on a bush there. Oh, rubbing his face on a bush. Of course, this Nest Cam being a wide view camera, we can't zoom in, unfortunately. I'd love to be able to, but we're not there just yet. But isn't it just fantastic that right now we have this view for you? And we'll continue to have this view for you pretty much as long as there's light. Louise just sent me through a message to say lots of you are saying that you miss me on bushwalk. Thank you very much for your compliments. I also miss going out on bushwalk, and hopefully as the year progresses we can change that and you'll see a bit more of me out out and about. Definitely lost all the scabs associated to tick bites. All the scrapes and scratches have healed over, and I'm rusty with my bush knowledge at the moment, so looking forward to sharpening up those skills for sure. Now, these impala are herd-based animals. These male impala. Oh, look at that. Lilac-breasted roller, center of the screen, just caught himself an insect and flying off. One of the most colorful birds that we have here. So that is a lilac-breasted roller, and it gets its name from the fact that its display, they're very territorial, and both male and female will display in a rolling arc. They rock from side to side, and then they fly up after making a big ruckus, open their wings up wide, and then do sort of a backflip and plummet down to earth before completing a series of these arcs. And that's where they get their name from, the roller. An unbelievably big ruckus when they do make there. There he flies off in, sitting on the edge of the branch. So sort of upper left center of the screen in that marula tree, that's that mottled grey bark, prominent tree on the left-hand side. The lilac-breasted roller is now sitting on the lowest horizontal branch that you can see. And specifically in the sunlight, because they're very pretty, showy birds. And of course, it doesn't help if you've got all these colors and no one can see it. And so they sit out at the tops of trees and on the points of branches. And they do it so that they can show off all their colors to rival pairs. Now, young Hosanna is not far away from these impala, and I wonder if they're not skittish because they can smell him. That is amazing. All right, I'm going to stick around here by the Nest Cam while we just battle through a few more of these technical glitches that we've got. In the meantime, Steve has managed to find himself more signal and is still looking for those lions.
Well, yes, I have, Steph, a kill on the Nest Cam with the lilac-breasted roller. Well, how fantastic is that? Well, we are now on cheetah cut line, just trying to see if in fact those lions just completely veered east from their trajectory of those buffalo. We did find a few more tracks of the buffalo on our way to the bigger herd of tracks that we found, so maybe they're splintered off and have come east We're having a few technical issues, and so I don't want to get off the vehicle and walk in there and then leave Louise with just tail up in the mire at the moment, because that would just be difficult. But we will see what we can do. One more little loop around. The lions have not crossed here, then they're in there, and then we're going to have to make another plan. So that is the way it is at the moment. There's a little road here that we looped around where we got the initial tracks of those buffalo again going in. There's no lion tracks here. Nothing yet. Sorry that I'm leaning out the car like this. Okay, well, it seems like Tristan has got his camera back up and running, and let's go back over to him with the little chief.
Well, I'm not with the little chief, actually, Steve. I had to quickly change with James to do some stuff that he needed to shoot for the TV show on Saturday, and so I went and sat with the little chief by myself with no camera and just watched him as he's watching some impalas that you saw on the Nest Cam with Steph. And then James now just came back to me and picked me up, and I'm going to go to Thandi and Kalamba because, well, we can watch Hosanna from the dam cam, but we can't watch these two from the dam cam. So we're going to spend some time with these two, and then maybe Steve, if he's got no luck with the Nkuhumas, can go and spend some time with Hosanna, given that Hosanna is just sitting around watching those impalas. I don't know if he's going to hunt them. He doesn't seem to be too phased. He's kind of got a beady eye open. It's quite funny. He's playing the cool role, so he's sitting there with his head down as though he's sleeping, but one eye is open, just watching these impalas as they're coming past. So I think he's hoping that they'll come a little bit closer, and maybe he'll get lucky and be able to find them. Now, Seb, you're going to have to show me where these leopards are. Keep going straight. Okay, we should. There we go. Yes, I can see him now. Okay, interesting though. What interests me about this particular movement is this is the way Thandi came yesterday. She went up onto quarantine side on the western side, but she's kind of heading in a southwesterly direction from the dam. So I'm intrigued now as to where she's actually going or where she's come from, and whether or not there might be some sort of meal that maybe, just maybe, she's got somewhere that she's taking Kalamba to, or potentially she's just decided time to move little Kalamba. Ravinda, if Thandi becomes too old to hunt, will Kalamba help her? No. So, not at this stage. Kalamba is still too young to really kind of hunt for herself. I mean, she's trying, and she's starting to try and kind of get into positions where she can hunt. Oh, there's a big stump there. Let's just get back slightly. She's trying to start getting into kind of that hunting mode, but so far as yet, she hasn't quite mastered it or gotten it right. And so she wouldn't really be able to help Thandi find food. She would find that she'd probably in all likelihood not be able to sustain Thandi's appetite or her own. Oh goodness, I've gotten myself into a bit of a mess here. Alright, let's try and get round to where Tax is. It's just there's all these fallen over stumps. Actually, let's go this way. And so I think if in all likelihood Thandi got injured or old, then you would find that Kalamba would not really be able to help her. But the thing is that there's no danger of Thandi getting old with Kalamba, if we think about it, because Thandi is 12 years old, and Kalamba, being now 10 months, is going to soon, careful there, Seb, hopefully that's all right, is soon going to be going off on her own. And before Thandi reaches an age where she's no longer able to hunt out of old age, which would be, I mean, anywhere from sort of 16 to 20 years old, Kalamba's going to be long gone. She's going to be doing her own thing long before Thandi ever gets to that point. Rusty, why are you so squeaky? I haven't driven Rusty in so long, but Rusty's got a lot of squeaks to it at the moment. Now, these two apparently are posing beautifully. There we go, look at how beautiful that is. The two of them sitting together on the mound. Now I'm going to just turn off here, but there's Thandi with little Kalamba right behind her. You can just see the two of them. How cool is that? Hello, girls. So I love the fact that the two of them lie like this, and then they're kind of looking the same way. Very, very cool. So I'm just going to try and reposition steps slightly, just because there'll be a better view of Kalamba if I just go forward slightly, because Tax is leaving now, which is allowing us to be able to get into a bit of a nicer picture. So Seb, just say when. There. That's good. So there's Seb is happy now. One must keep their cameraman happy, otherwise we get ourselves into trouble. But look at that. Isn't that cool? Hey guys. You can see Tlalamba's got a long way to go to grow to the size of Mom. She's still very little in comparison to Mom. And isn't that just the most spectacular thing to see two leopards lounging on a mound like this? Now, yesterday afternoon I tried to find these two, well, yes, both of them, the whole afternoon, and had very little luck. So I'm quite happy to see the two of them. And there's the icy glare of Thandi that she often has. Hello, girl. Why are you staring at me like I'm in trouble with you? It's like the look your mother gives you when you've done something naughty. Yes. Hello, girl. She's very pretty, though. Beautiful little cat. And she's been quite active this morning. She might be a little bit grumpy this morning. Her tail is twitching a little bit, and I don't know, she doesn't seem as though she's that relaxed. She was kind of running around quite a bit. Now, Richard, would eye contact with an animal kind of promote conflict or irritate that animal? Depends which animal that you are dealing with. A leopard, undoubtedly, yes. So a leopard, if you're on foot and you come across one and you engage with it and stare at it, you're going to get yourself into trouble. You're going to get yourself kind of hoping that you didn't do that, because a leopard almost takes that as a challenge and doesn't like it. So if you avoid eye contact with them on foot, then generally they just try and hide and kind of watch you go past. A lion's a little bit different. Lions, you want to engage them with eye contact and try and watch them and kind of stare at them, and they tend to respond better to that. Elephants and buffalo and those kind of things, it doesn't really matter too much whether you avoid eye contact or you watch them. They don't really respond that well. But leopards, for sure, if you engage with them with eye contact, often it feels like they one, know that they've then been spotted, and two, it's almost then a situation where they've either got to fight or flight, and they don't really know what to do, and they can then be very aggressive. So you try and avoid your eye contact with a leopard and just pretend like you haven't even seen them. So often when you track a leopard, and if you, let's say we were walking on the path and I spotted these two and I'd spotted them late and I was very close, I just pretend like I haven't seen them and just walk straight past them, and generally they'll just drop their heads and pretend and hope that we don't see them, and then they kind of pop their head up and maybe move off as I pass by. But generally that's the kind of leopard behavior, so you don't really want to look a leopard in the eye too much. But you can see she's listening and alert. Tlalamba in the background is about to pass out. She looks very tired. I suppose they were running around like hooligans. Seb, did you have to follow them quite quickly through all of that? Were they running after each other? A little bit, yes. Yes, I believe that they ran a bit, and then I saw Tlalamba chase a scrub hare just before I handed over to James for a few minutes, and it seemed as though she almost got it right, but the scrub hare was a little fast, and we've seen with Hosanna how difficult scrub hares can be to catch. Isn't that pretty? There's a little typical twitchy tail that a leopard has with the white tip. Very, very cool. How's that for a morning? We've got 3 leopards, buffalo. Taylor had an epic lion sighting, it sounded like, this morning, and I believe that she's still out and about in the Mara and still looking now for a different set of lions, and I hope that she manages to find exactly which lion she's been looking for this morning.
I think I'm going to stop looking for lions now. It's getting quite hot during the, and I think that they're probably all getting ready to lay down in the shade. So I'm in the Win Your Pride territory. Whether we'll find them or not, I'm not so sure, especially if they're laying in this long grass. This area hasn't really been grazed down at all, but this is normally one of the last sort of spots that will be grazed. And then the reason that's really made me come down this way is, some of you may remember, I think it was last week, where in the afternoon we had a brief sighting of 3 rhinos, 2 adults and then a new calf, a new addition to the Mara Triangle. So I know that they like to live along, there's 3 drainage lines that they live along that's lined with a very thick wall of trees. It's beautiful forests, and they like those areas. So I'm just checking the first one, and then we'll go down the next one and then up the other side most likely, depending on how much time we have sort of left. These drainage lines are massive. They're so long. But otherwise, there's not much around. There's a couple of birds flying about. Now, James, I think this is a fairly easy one for me to answer, and I reckon you probably know the answer to it too. But the animal that I'm most excited to see when I get back to South Africa is just the elephants. I really do miss that interaction you get with the elephants in South Africa. I always say to you, they kind of just overlook you here and put blinkers on and don't want to have anything to do with you. Every now and then you'll get the odd young cow or elephant bull that will shake his head at you. But, you know, they're quite oblivious to us. So I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about. That's the thing that excites me most about being on a safari. It's just having an interaction with a group of elephants. Otherwise, I mean, I like lions, I like hyenas. Obviously, I like seeing leopards. But, yeah, maybe Hosanna. I hope he's still around. I'll be back at work on the 9th or 10th, one of those 2 days of September. So I leave the Mara on Sunday, just in case some of you are wondering. And quite a few of us heading back to South Africa, and then I have some time off, and then back to the grind. So that's the plan anyways. So yeah, so maybe if Hosanna would be around, Hosanna interacting with elephants. Is that too much to ask for? Maybe, probably. But if you don't ask, you won't know. Hey? Anyway, so that's my sighting that I'd like to see. Actually, I've had a sighting with Hosanna and elephants before. It was a really nice one. You might remember it. Who remembers that incredible morning in the Sabi Sand when we're at Chitwa, right in front of the dam, and Hosanna came walking towards us and he posed on that dead marula tree. I mean, it was outstanding. It was one of the prettiest scenes I've seen since working with Wild Earth. It was incredible. And then he moved up onto a termite mound. There were actually some elephants moving around him. So something like that would be quite nice. It's not an impossible sighting, that's for sure. Okay, I'm just gonna, once we get up top here, I'm gonna have a scan. I'm just trying to get to a decent vantage point because I haven't seen anything around here. But from up top here, I've got a much better view. I'll show you now. And then that way, I'll be able to see if there's anything. Okay, let's check this side. Oh, that's a termite mound. Where are my binoculars? There they are. So you can see now we're quite high up. We're not up on the escarpment. But from this angle, I can start to see. There's a few topi scattered here and there, some elephants. Just quickly naming a couple of things that I'm seeing right off of the bat. Let's see what I can find when I look with my binoculars. I think that's really important when you go on a safari. You spend a bit of money and invest in a good pair of binoculars because you'll keep them forever. It's not something that's, just going to last for a few weeks. You can really get a decent pair, but they can be expensive, that's for sure. Lovely. Okay, well, no luck just here, but there's still another rise that I need to get to just over this next, or around this next bend. Or if you go to Tristan, who's still sitting with a lovely Thandi and Tlalamba.
Well, good luck, Taylor. Hopefully you'll find what you are looking for and what you are seeking. Thandi is still sitting ever so regally on her mound, taking it very, very easy. Tlalamba has gone completely to sleep. I actually can't even see her anymore. Seems as though she's lying on her side and is kind of flat. Just see some spots there and a little belly going up and down. So she seems fairly relaxed and chilled. So she must have been very close to where we were looking for her yesterday afternoon. I think we must have just been driving around these cats because they've come out from that area and have moved kind of southwards. But it doesn't look like they overly full, so I don't think they've been on a kill, and we know that Thandi was moving around during the day yesterday, so I'm thinking that maybe she went off hunting, didn't find anything, and just went back to Tlalamba and is now moving her. What's interesting is this morning there was lots of vocalizing from the northern side, which sounded like Tingana, but the guys on Chitwa are telling me that they had Tingana moving past their camp last night and then up through Little Gari by the tracks and then into here. So he's walked a long way, and it's an interesting kind of take because it's now starting to get more and more like his normal movement before he got sick. He's starting to push a lot further west. We're seeing him around Treehouse Dam, we're seeing him going towards Zoe's, into Buffalo's Hook, Torchwood, Chitwa, Little Gari once again, and so he's really kind of stamping his mark down as the dominant individual that is in charge of all of his previous sort of domains, which is an interesting thing because it's going to be. I'm intrigued to see how this affects the movement of Tandi, Hosana, and the likes, because before that, Tingana was really quite heavily patrolling Djuma the last month and not really moving out of the area too much. And that's probably why Tandi and Talamba and Hosana have stayed right here, is because they've been right within that kind of boundary. Now that boundary is expanding, is this why we're starting to see Hosana moving to Treehouse Dam, to Twin Dams, kind of further east towards almost Chitwa side? And is he going to go down to Chitwa? I surmise that he's kind of moving within Tingana's territory and where he's calling, but I don't think he'll go to Chitwa, and I'll tell you why. And the reason that he won't go to Chitwas at the moment is that they're actually building behind the dam wall, which is where we know Hosana spent a lot of time. And so I think the movement of people there and the constant building is why both Tingana is not going there and neither is Hosana at this stage. And they're then utilizing this area more to be able to kind of spend their time much like they did last year at Chitwa Dam. Now, Anna Marie, any news on Shadulu and Hukamuri? Shadulu and Hukamuri were mating yesterday morning on an area of Elephant Plains called Marula Belt, which is on the eastern side of Elephant Plains, not too far from the Elephant Plains Arathusa cut line, just south of the Elephant Plains Simambili area. So they were mating there yesterday afternoon. I did not hear any reports of them mating. I'm not sure if they were, but they're both fine. Apparently, they're both doing their thing and both are healthy and good. Now, if she's mating with Hukamuri for the second time since I've been here, she is most definitely not pregnant. So I don't know who thought they saw her pregnant, but I doubt very much that she's fallen pregnant. She's mated too much over the last few months to have been pregnant at any stage. So hopefully it will happen, though. It would be nice to have little Shadulu cubs, except that I don't think we would see very much of Shadulu at all. I think she would have her cubs probably on Arathusa and maybe every now and then briefly make an appearance on our side with cubs, but I think she'd be more confined to Arathusa's side. And Tiani obviously will have her cubs probably very similar to what Saleh did and have hers around Simambili or Elephant Plains at one of the camps there and utilize that area. Interestingly enough, though, last night, the guys were telling me that that Ottawa male leopard that's been seen quite a bit was also seen around Elephant Plains camp, as well as one of the Avoca males. Now, I believe all three Avoca males are in Buffelshoek, Manyeleti area this morning, so he must have walked quite far. And I wonder if that's maybe dictated with some of the movement of the Nkuhumas from last night. I know Steve is following the tracks, but it'd be interesting to know where they're kind of headed and what happened there. So lots and lots of movement of cats all around. It's the crazy season. It's kind of the late winter going into spring, as this is what happens, is we just get massive amounts of movement of cats, and all concentrating in similar areas as water becomes harder and harder to find. So they all start to go towards these kind of pumped pan areas or areas where there's beautiful water to drink, and that generally attracts a lot of game and therefore a lot of predators. So lots happening. It's going to be a kind of interesting couple of months. Now, I'm also interested in what happened with Tumba and Anderson. I know there was photos posted of the two met up again recently a few days ago, and they said there was an interesting interaction that Tumba was chuffing at Anderson. Well, I mean, I think Tumba needs to be very careful, firstly. I think he's playing with fire by going around Anderson. And Anderson is a much, much bigger leopard. And I think the only thing that's saving him at the moment is that Anderson is so much bigger than what he is. And I don't think Anderson sees him as too much of a threat right now. But he's going to have to be careful, because it just takes a bit of food or Anderson to be in a bad mood, and he's going to have a tough time on his hand, and definitely would not be able to overpower Anderson. It's just way too big in comparison to him. So, I always worry when Tumba's around that side. But the chuffing call that he's doing is not chuffing like he would chuff to his mom. It's much like what we've been seeing with a lot of the leopard interactions we've been having here, and we've discussed it, is that it's a way of communicating with another leopard in a non-aggressive manner. So it's basically, the chuff is to say, I'm here, I'm not trying to be aggressive towards you, I'm not trying to hurt you, I know that you're more dominant, I'm just trying to kind of let you know that I'm here and I'm being submissive to you, as opposed to, it's not so much that he's talking to that animal, or in Tumba's case, to Anderson and being, that this is a father figure. No, it's more he's just trying to be a little bit submissive and just kind of try and get himself out of that situation by making soft contact calls that are not in a non-threatening way. It's not like a growl or a roar or a sawing. Those kind of things would have been taken by Anderson as a challenge, as opposed to those little soft chuffing calls that Anderson maybe thinks, well, you know what, it's not really kind of too much of a threat to me. This leopard here knows that he's not dominant in any way. And also, if you look at the pictures, Tumba's body language, he's kind of hunched, his head is quite low, and so he keeps it quite kind of down. Oh, hello girls, are you going to decide to move now? How cool is this? Love when these two walk past, or any leopard walks past. I mean, she's walking literally underneath the car. Little Columba, are you going to come with as well? Columba's still sitting. Nah, Mom, I'm on my termite mound. I'm on my little queendom over here on the throne. Sanjay, essentially no. So an Asian and an African, it depends what Asian leopards we're talking about. There's obviously different species of leopard in Asia. So there's clouded leopards, Chinese leopard, emerald leopard. But essentially the leopard that, let's say, you find in India is very similar. It's got the same structures, the same kind of patternings on the coat, the same way of going about life. It's just that they are in a different area, and so therefore become almost like a subspecies. And that's why you have things like Chinese leopard, Indian leopard, African leopard, and they might have subtle changes. If you look at the Sri Lankan leopards, they have a very different look to what our leopards have and what's the way ours do, and it just has a bit of a kind of difference in terms of body structure, and sizes will also differentiate between the different areas depending on their diet. Here in the Sabi Sands, our leopards are quite big, and because they get such a serious amount of food and big prey items, so I mean they're eating on high protein diet and eating regularly, whereas if you go into the Cape, let's say, even those Cape leopards are almost a subspecies because of how small they are. A big male leopard in the Cape will weigh like 35 kilograms, which is probably, I would say, maybe 10 kilograms lighter than Tundi. So that gives you an idea of how small they are in comparison. A female leopard will be almost the size of Columba at fully grown. So that just kind of gives you a bit of a sort of idea of how diet and terrain and the way things, or the habitat that they live in, dictates their sizes and their general kind of look. There goes Tundi. She's just slinking towards the next termite mound. I'm wondering if Columba is going to go with her. Come on, Columba, catch up with Mom. She's just watching Mom walking off. Maybe she knows Mom's going off hunting. It's interesting to me that Tundi's behavior is like this because I find it intriguing. I've seen a lot of females like Salahesh, when they have cubs, that they hunted a lot during the day, and I wonder if it's because of hyenas that they do these kind of things. Anyway, we'll sit with the two of them. We'll see which way they're going to go, if Columba's going to move or if Tundi's going to carry on, or she's going to lie down. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Steve, who's still looking for the Nkuhumas. And well, if he doesn't have any luck, Hosana is sitting at the dam cam waiting for him.
I tracked those lions all the way to the Pride. I got off have sort of split off, so we've driven through and we haven't found any lions. I don't know why. They probably, because they're not hungry, they probably couldn't help themselves, and eventually the buffalo stood them down, and then the lions just decided to walk off and lay down. That's probably what's happening. That's why the buffalo are so fast asleep, and the lions are probably lying.
Unfortunately, it sounds like Steve has got lots of gremlins this morning. I'm not sure where he's driving, that Wendy's giving him such a hard time, because I've been driving Wendy for the last few weeks and I haven't had too many issues, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Hopefully everything's okay with Wendeline. She can be a bit temperamental at times. Anyway, we're still sitting here, as you would imagine. I mean, it's not been long since you last saw us, and Tundi is still kind of milling around to our left. I can just see the white of her tail. I don't see much of her. And Columba, well, is looking as cute as a little button on top of the termite mound. She really has developed so much. If I think the last time I saw her on this termite mound, funnily enough, was in, I think, February, was around there, somewhere there, and she was tiny, and you look at her now and she's starting to resemble a proper leopard, and she looks very at home atop a termite mound, doesn't she? I'm quite excited to see how she grows up, and hopefully, I'm really hoping that this little one gets to become the next female that we see in this area that dominates. She's got quite a serious face, and it's starting to develop into that more adult look. For me, she looks a little bit like Shongile and Karula. There's something about her that reminds me of both of those leopards, and not so much like Thandi. She, for me, doesn't really have as much of a Thandi look as her grandmother and her stepsister. So guide monkey, the biggest danger to Tlalamba's survival at this point is two things: lions and dominant male leopards. So any male leopard that comes in here that outs Tingana is a major problem for this little leopard. Until she reaches probably about 2 years old, she's going to have a tough time dealing with male leopards outside of this particular section. So it's a long way away. I mean, Tingana is going to have to dominate for another year to ensure that Tlalamba is probably of the age where she'll be okay, and it's going to be a kind of difficult process that she's going to go through. So those would be the two biggest problems that she's got. So she's got to be very careful of lions and very careful of dominant male leopards. So Hukamuri would be a major threat, and it's why Thandi's behavior changed completely when Hukamuri started coming in. She took little Tlalamba from the central parts of Djuma, where we are now, and she just basically ran straight east and into Torchwood as far as she could away from Hukamuri. And remember that we started to see Hukamuri kind of chasing her down as far as Cheetah Cutline. It gives you an idea of how things have changed. I mean, we have not seen Hukamuri on our side for over a month, and yet he was pushing all the way towards Cheetah Cutline at one point. It just gives you an idea of how clever Thandi was to have moved her cub the way she did, and how she kind of outmaneuvered her like a chessboard. Basically, she outmaneuvered Hukamuri in some respects, but that threat still lingers, because it just takes one day where Hukamuri decides, I'm going to come back, and that's going to be trouble for little Tlalamba. So she needs to always be aware of what's going on. But that's the biggest challenge, I would say, is little Tlalamba, or even Hosana growing up and starting to become testosterone filled. He could potentially be a threat, but they've had so many interactions now that I wonder if Hosana just doesn't really mind too much that little Tlalamba's around, and I don't think he really would be too aggressive to her at this stage, because he actually knows her, which would be quite strange. It'd be an interesting kind of dynamic to watch how that played out, but very kind of intriguing. Christy, we are. I mean, we've been very fortunate, and it's not just, what's going on right now. So Hosana, Thandi, Tlalamba, Tingana is incredibly intriguing, and it's giving us a huge amount of valuable lessons. But we need to rewind from that and go back to 10 years ago when Wilder started and had the ability to follow Karula, and who was also in her own right an incredible leopard, the most successful leopard that I know of anywhere in terms of raising cubs, and her ability to keep cubs safe. And the whole story from when she was around Mafufanyan, Jordan, and Mvula, and all the males that have come between, it's been an incredible kind of process to have followed and to have watched. And so we've been super fortunate to start there, and then to kind of move through all of these generations, and now to be where we are at the moment, and to have these special cats in the form of Hosana, kind of bringing Tingana and Thandi and Tlalamba into it, is just absolutely amazing. So we're very fortunate. Right. I'm going to try and catch up with one of the two of them. I don't know where either of them have gone. So while I do that, I'm going to send you back across to Taylor McCurdy. I don't think she's found her rhinos yet, but hopefully she'll have some luck and be able to check and see something soon.
It's so bright outside, I can't keep my eyes open today, and the wind is howling, I suppose, as it normally does in the Mara. Very windy. So, no lions, no rhinos. Well, we've had lions, but no more. I don't know where they are. It always amazes me how the Olololo pride just disappears like that. But I'm sure they must be up on the escarpment. They've probably been lingering around camp with all the zebra that are around. Oh my goodness. Can I just show you what I mean when I say lots of buffalo? Look at this. I'm going to just try and pull us right off to the side of the road so people can carry on going past. It's another thing, if you do decide to if you ever do go on a self-driving safari, here's a little tip. If the animals are on this side of the road, park this side of the road, because otherwise, if you park on that side of the road to view the animals, people will firstly just drive straight through your shot, which is not particularly fun. And then also people can just get around you if they don't want to stop and look at the animals. So park on the side that the animals are that you want to look at. There we go. There's a whole lot of them. It's I mean, it's not it's a big herd. There's probably about 200, 300 buffalo here, but that's about it. I mean, oh, sorry. Sometimes you can see exceptional herds of thousands of buffalo. They're all very chatty. Lots of cars, of course, also watching every animal move around. Of course, everyone gets very excited when you know, it's one thing just seeing one buffalo on its own, but when you get to see so many of them like this, it's pretty cool. But all moving on. Moving into the Olololo's territory. Although I don't think I would pick on anyone in this herd. I'd be too scared to. We know that buffalo are exceptionally social creatures. And, well, we were talking earlier about lions and buffalo interacting, and I've had the most sightings of the Olololos getting chased away by buffalo. Aline, in the Sabi Sand, I feel like the buffalo's lifespan's a little bit shorter because the lions are specialists at taking down these enormous beasts. And of course, I'm just joking. I mean, I'm sure they all have all sorts of challenges that they need to face. I like that sound that the buffalo makes. It's a little one. And hopefully this little one will be able to reach the age of about, I don't know if it's lucky, maybe between 25 and 30 years old, if it's really lucky, if it lives that long. But you know, sometimes you see the old buffalo bull, but you don't see many ancient buffalo bulls. And there's one that lives up on the escarpment, but other than that, I think if you live in a big herd like this, though, you've got a better chance of survival than if you're off on your own, having a drink of water. I haven't done anything, girl. What are you looking at? Just staring straight at us. Well, she's probably not. It's almost like that 1,000-mile stare. She's looking through us. She looks tired. They might actually find a spot to rest. I mean, normally they're active in the early mornings, and then as the heat of the day arrives, they'll lay themselves down, ruminate a bit, and just wallow in the mud, and then be groomed by all the oxpeckers. That's a juvenile little oxpecker there. It's not an adult just yet, hasn't got its colouring. It's red and yellow. Ooh, Richard, yes, a buffalo stampede, that is scary. I mean, it's one thing having 2,000 or 3,000 wildebeest running towards you, but having these creatures which are like double the size, maybe 3 times the weight of a wildebeest, stampeding is crazy. And one of the biggest stampedes I've ever seen was caused because of a daker, you know, those tiny little antelope. It came out of the bushes. It was sort of, I think I've told the story before, it was like dusk, so it was just starting to get dark, and this daker popped out of the bushes. Well, the buffalo, that was the end of them. They ran in the opposite direction. They had no idea what it was. I think they must have just heard it and couldn't really see very well, so it was quite comical, because I thought, oh, lions or something, and then had a look, and the only thing that I could see was this little daker. So even the smallest creatures can scare the buffalo. Sorry, you probably can hear a car running. Not sure why what the fascination. One day, if I ever decide to write a book, it'll be about the fascination of humans and leaving their cars running in sightings with animals. I don't particularly understand it, but anyways, I suppose it is just one of those things. Rightio, we're going to carry on from here and probably start heading home. Off you go, back to South Africa.
Thanks, Taylor. Well, we have found some very relaxed impala and some very relaxed zebra as well. There's some warthog in the mix there somewhere, but they are not showing themselves. So we're somewhere between the zebra and the buffalo, we're somewhere between them, and I don't know where these lions have gone. They were hunting as buffalo for sure, but then they've seemingly moved off. We've done 2 loops around this block and we haven't found anything. And by the nature of all these animals being very relaxed, I would hazard a guess that the lions are probably fast asleep, flat on the ground, and no one can see them, even these antelope and zebra. There's my thought. That's my thought anyway. Beautiful, beautiful zebras. Look like a little bachelor group of males again. Saw them on Torchwood the other day. It seems like they all might be slowly moving towards Chuto watering hole. Dr. Mark, you want to know how we stream live from the bushveld? Well, I wish I could show you the vehicle we're on. We've got an enormous aerial on the back with all sorts of technical things that are really... Okay, Craig can show you the aerial. Here's the aerial. There it is. And that is going straight to 3 enormous masts we have positioned all the way around the property. And then somehow they communicate with a satellite that we have close to camp, and then that zooms it into the ether. Somewhere out there it is reaching your television or computer screen. I am not the most technically orientated person. Craig, could I make any better discussion than that? Craig knows the stuff quite well. Craig thinks I've done quite well. Thanks, Craig. I think he's being nice. But so that is what's happening. We've got all sorts of technology that is doing it. That's why you've lost me a couple of times, because we've just been below the horizon. We've expanded into another area. We need to improve the signal in that area. And because we were out of sort of line of sight, so to speak, of the big towers, we lost our signal. And that's probably why you had us black screen a little while ago. But there's a lot of technical stuff. We've got generally 1, 2 technical guys on site that are constantly monitoring these things. It's a full-time job. They speak a very different language. I can tell you all about the stripes and digestion of that animal. And when it comes to the signal and the cables and the SDIs and the... Yeah, well, that is something that I leave to the professionals. So I hope my answer has been a little bit sufficient for you. But another gentleman who knows a lot about animals is still sitting with his cats.
Well, we are sitting with cats, and we're sitting with the beautiful Tundi that's now just sitting on a mound by herself. Kalamba went running off towards the Mulwati drainage, so I think she somehow got some visual cue from Mom that Mom was going off to go and get business done and go and find food, and in the meantime she's going to kind of go and rest in the Mulwati. And look at that. What are you watching, girl? She's watching a squirrel. That's what she's watching. There's a squirrel just to our left-hand side here. There's a bush in your face, Tundi. Putting your head there is not ideal, but there's the squirrel just sitting on top of the branch. Oh, it's just run off now. Of course it would, as Seb goes around. But on that tree there, that little branch, there was a squirrel sitting there. So I think that's what she was watching. You can see it there just running around inside. So that's what she's busy kind of taking a look at. Hello, beautiful girl. Look at that. She's getting herself comfy for a bit of rest, I think. Is the grass annoying you, Tundi? I think if she lies flat, she'll be okay. She'll just drop her head down, but definitely gotten herself into a better position now. Her paws are kind of stretched out. You can see eyes are closing a little bit. And if it wasn't for the squirrel moving around and the grey go-where bird shouting at her, I think we would have one sleepy mom on our hands who would be taking a little bit of a break. And like I say, it's not surprising. I don't know how long she's been with Kalamba this morning, but she's a little ball of energy and chases Tundi around and jumps on her and all kinds of other things. So it's tiring work walking around with her daughter, and so maybe that's why she's decided to find a little termite mound of her own that she can just sit on and have a bit of a sleep. You can see the eyes are getting heavy. It's starting to get warm now, so the sun is obviously gotten quite high up, and so it's getting to that time of the day where most of our cats start to just kind of settle down a little bit. They don't move around too much, although, like I say, Tundi, we know, can sometimes be seen walking around at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is pretty interesting. It's very different to what we see from, you know, some of the other cats around. Hassan is also not shy to walk during the middle of the day as well. basically debunks the myths about leopards only walking around at night. They most definitely don't only walk around at night. They'll take whatever opportunities they can to walk around and do their thing. And like I say, with females, you often find it that if they've got cubs, they hunt during the day. And in some females, even without cubs, Salaish was a prime exponent of this. We used to find her hunting in the day more than we used to see her hunting at night. And that's because she worked out that the Elephant Plains clan of hyenas was so efficient at stealing her kills at night that she would try to get it done in the day, that she could then hollow out the carcass, eat a little bit, lighten it, and put it up into a tree before the clan arrived during the course of the night. So kind of interesting how animals learn behavior when circumstances change and when they have to kind of overcome certain adversities. Tandy, that can't be comfortable, girl. Why don't you just put your head down? She's trying to hold on until the end of, I think, our safari, which is very nice of her, because it's always nice to see her beautiful eyes and her head up. But I feel bad for her because this grass is kind of irritating her nose, and I don't know if you've ever had a piece of grass tickling the top of your nose. Not very pleasant. So I can imagine she's not exactly as comfortable as she'd want to be, and so I'm hoping that she'll just kind of flop her way down and rest in this particular area. But she wouldn't be here. She doubts she'll be in this area this afternoon. The sun is going to get up and it's going to come around that mound, and there's not going to be too much shade, so pretty sure she'll move about. But Tlalamba, by the looks of things, is going to be left in the Mulwati, which is perfect. They're right in the center of Djuma, and they must stay here. We need Tundi to make a kill today so that they're here for Saturday morning, and they can then be a happy family with all 4 leopards making a show on Saturday morning. How about that? We're throwing that out into the ether and the universe as something that can happen. You never know. We haven't had a sighting yet of all 4. We've had 3 and 1 close by, but never had all 4 together. And I'm kind of intrigued to see how that would play out and what Tingana's reaction would be to Hasana if all 4 of them were together. I wonder if he would be a little bit more aggressive. But anyway, it would be something amazing to see kind of 4 different generations all in the same area together. Obviously, we have seen it before, where we've seen a lot of leopards together, and 5 is kind of the one that we all know about, with Karula and her offspring and Jordan. So it's possible, but that was a little different because it was all her offspring rather than one that wasn't related to her by a direct line, or she hadn't had as a mother. What a beautiful morning we've had. It's a perfect winter's day as well. It's absolutely perfect conditions to have been out this morning, and we've been obliged by having 3 leopards once again. It's really, our spotted luck has been quite something. We know we've had 2 quiet afternoons when it's come to spots, but otherwise it's really been quite something over the course of the last few weeks. Captain Deltron, no. I don't know. We don't spend enough time with her at night to know if Tlalamba spends time in the trees at night. I surmise that she doesn't. Sleeping up in a tree is not the most comfortable of things to be doing. I mean, leopards make it look comfortable, but it's much easier for her to go and curl up on a termite mound where there's a nice little bit of warmth coming out of the mound, and she can curl up there and be a lot more camouflaged than she'd be up in a tree. Remember, if she lies up in a tree, particularly now in winter, very easy for things like lions to spot her, other leopards, which will make them come in and investigate and maybe put her in harm's way. So much nicer just to curl up, and if she hears something, then scamper up into a tree if she need be. But from the drone and kind of trying to find these animals in the darkness of night, 99% of the time we find them, they're on the ground. So she's seems to be not sleeping in trees, but it's obviously difficult to know because we don't spend enough time to really kind of make a concrete sort of statement on all of that. But you never know. She's not, doesn't strike me as the most arboreal cat though. It's like Tundi. She also doesn't spend that much time in trees. We very seldom find Tundi just sitting in a tree. Not like Karula. Karula used to be a tree-dwelling cat. You'd often see Karula sitting up in a tree and just taking it very easy. Right, well, it is that time of the day though where we are going to be starting to head back to camp for breakfast, and it's been, well, a good day to head back for breakfast because we've had lots and lots of things going on, which has been quite wonderful, and Steve put a valiant effort into the Nkuhuma search, and hopefully he will be able to find them at some point during the course of this afternoon. But like I say, what an incredible morning once again. 3 leopards in one place. We've had lots of intriguing things from the Mara as always, and then lots of things here in Djuma too. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope that you enjoyed it, and we'll see you this afternoon on the Sunset Safari.